Hi, welcome to the New York City Comic Con. I'm Megan Laux with CBR. I'm joined with Todd McFarlane.
Hey Megan, how are you doing today?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
Good, but you're getting started, right?
I know. Are you ready to open up some toys?
Let's do it, right?
Okay.
They're getting set up here. We got 4 days, but let's show some of the people, some of the cool stuff. I'll give you one, I'll take one.
Okay,
there you go. You show what you've got. We've got the Black Adam movie coming out October 21st. All right, here we go. We got two versions of it. One of them sort of classic, the one you're seeing in a lot of the posters. And then this one to me, I think, for me, is cooler because he's got the cloak on it. Looks a little more badass to me, right? So he looks a little more mysterious. But it was fun sort of doing this with DC and, you know, getting Dwayne's comments on these. So.
Yeah, can you tell us kind of about the process? Okay, so this movie comes out October 21st.
Yeah.
When do you initially start production on these figures?
Yeah, that's the thing. When you've got a movie and you're trying to catch it and you want the toys out before, right? They're out at stores right now. We have to do it almost a full year in advance, right? It can be a little frustrating because you can imagine sometimes the movies finish like close to theatrical release. So some of the special effects or monsters or whatever aren't even done or developed yet, right? So we're asking for these characters and they're going, the final design isn't done. And we go, well, we've got to bake this cake, which is called a toy, way further in advance than like making a hat or a shirt like you have, right? Like there are certain things you can turn around fast. Toys aren't, because we've got to manufacture them overseas, get them all the way over here. So that's really the biggest holdback of doing TV movies is that they're always waiting for designs and we have to go. So we ran into that with one of the figures, but it ended up looking up okay. So, but they gave us early looks. As you can imagine, they get really nervous when they hand you top secret information and looks. You can't let any of this out, right? And then we have to get all the approvals from it. And then in some cases, which happened here, the actor, you know, Dwayne Johnson, he actually had to have and sign off on his own figures, right? That doesn't happen with all actors and all the things we've done, but sometimes they go, no, that person, you have to clear it through them. So.
Great. Can you kind of tell us about what goes into like the box design? I mean, you've got some really great images here on the back. What is the process of picking these designs for the back?
Well, a lot of times when you're working with big corporations, they actually give you a house guide, right? So they say, here it is. Not only is it the design that I have to use, it's the design that maybe 20 other people who are doing Black Adam product also have to do. They want it to be uniform so that people look at it when they're walking up and down and saying, oh, hey, I keep seeing that same logo, that same color, that same palette. Makes sense because then you got a consistency, right? Hershey uses the same wrapping for all their sort of chocolate bars, no matter what the size is. Toys aren't any different on here. But what they do early on is they give us the reference, right? And from that reference, then we have to sculpt them. We have to get the approval of the sculpt before we even think about articulation and painting and what kind of background we're going to do, the blue background on there or whatever. But if we open these up here, then we sent it there. Dwayne's only comment, because he's a very generous man, right? And you get cards. Each one of them comes with a card and a stand in there. Dwayne is a very generous man. His only comment on a couple of them was like, you got to make me more ripped. Right? And I'm like, ripped? Dude, you're a big guy, you got lots of muscles. He wanted to be even more ripped on all of them. We did a statue, too, of Black Adam, and he sort of asked if we could do one early so that he could give it to his mom as a gift, right?
That's great.
I think people don't understand that, like, actors and musicians kind of like their toys because otherwise what you have to do is give people like a CD or a DVD, right? And it's a flat little thing. You can't really display that. I mean, you can watch it, right? But if you give something like this, your toy, to your nephew, right? They're going, I've heard it plenty of times. I'm going to give that to my son or my daughter or my nephew. Then what they can do is they can take their toy and then they can put it up on the shelf. And then they can go, that's Uncle Dwayne up on the shelf or whatever. So they actually get a kick out of it. I found that a lot of them. So once they put it up there, I mean, there's a stand on there. You can put that up on the shelf and they go, yeah, my uncle, my husband, my friend was in that movie, which is way different than having to go grab the DVD and then going, hey, did you see this movie? right? So they actually like statues. I found they like tangible 3D imagery, even T-shirts, anything that shows them off here. But here he is here with his cape. Got a little bit of flexibility, lots of articulation, so you can put him in whatever kind of cool hero poses you want to put him in. Even the head will sort of pivot on here. But yeah, we try to do as much, deep articulation on it. Right, you can do deep knee bends on it, and then you give him, like here, yeah, he's got some little cool toy stuff because he's got his energy bolts that he has in the movie. So, but some even stuff like this, swivels. Let me tell you that the fans let us know when we get it right and when we get it wrong. Right, they like all this. The frustrating point for me is I like to have as much accuracy with the art as possible, and the more times you cut that figure up to move, then you have to give a little bit of the art away. And I'm way on the art side, but I found that the fans, for the most part, they like to be able to pose, especially now. Maybe I'm too old now, but with social media, they like to be able to take their figures, shoot photos of them, put them up on their social media, put them in cool poses, and interacting with some of their other toys. Right? For me, I just wanted to have it up on the shelf and go, man, that looks cool. But they actually, you've seen some of these sites that they animate their toys, right? They do these sort of professional high gloss photos. And there's a lot of people that's like, Todd, I need this so I can actually be famous on social media. But anyways, I thought the likeness came out really nice on both of these. Like I said, Dwayne had to sign off on them, so he must have enjoyed them too. And getting the accuracy of the costume that he wears. They gave us some pretty intense close-ups, right? So it's not just here's one photo. They give you like dozens and dozens of imagery turned all the way around, right? So you got these generic ones where they've got Dwayne, which they do with every sort of character in every movie, and they turn them around so you get every angle of all the designs, so you make sure you can get it front, back, side, and it's all as accurate as possible.
In 2021, McFarlane, the DC Multiverse line was the highest selling toy in the US and Canada.
Correct.
What do you think makes your action figures so sought after compared to like the Marvel or Star Wars ones?
Yeah, no, and so again, put that in perspective, right?
Right.
Put that in perspective that we have only a portion of the DC Multiverse, right? There's still other Multiverse by other companies. We outsold that, but even more impressively, we outsold Marvel, all the Marvel Legends stuff, and Star Wars, right? We outsold anything. I think part of it, a couple things. There was the pandemic, and there wasn't a lot of movies and whatever else. Everybody sort of had to go, and you didn't have the big brands and big marketing sort of driving one thing over the other. So now it was just the quality of the product. I think we do the best detail at the prices that are out there. But on top of all that, the one thing that caught Warner Brothers off guard when we took over the license was we said we were going to do like all these figures, and to do a lot of those figures, you have to make new molds of them, right? It's sort of like taking a piece of paper, and once you're done with the drawing, you got to get another blank piece of paper. Well, making toys, if you got two characters and their costumes are not the same, you have to make a new mold. They were shocked that we were willing to make new molds for new characters, because what they're used to by the big Fortune 500 companies is that you take a figure and then you take his head off and you put on a new head and you try to make and use this as much as possible, right? Think about it in Legos, right? No matter what you buy for Legos, there's certain pieces that are always the same, right? It's a formula. Well, in the toy action figure aisle, it's the same for the big Fortune 500 companies. So when we said we want to do that character, they go, you can't do, I remember having these conversations, you can't do that character. And it's like, why? Because it doesn't look like any of the other ones you've done before. No, I know. We'll just go and make it the way it's supposed to go. But that means you have to make a new mold. No, I understand that. And they were blown away. They were blown away that we've now done hundreds of new molds, because here's why that matters. To the geeks, they've never seen those figures. So I think one of the reasons we sold so much was because we had so many figures that nobody had ever seen before. We weren't doing the generic classic Superman, Batman. We were doing figures that were for the first time out in the marketplace.
You made a good point about keeping the quality high with still keeping a good price point. How do you manage to do that still?
Don't go public, and don't have a high rise, and I don't have a window in my office. Like you put the money in the toy, right? I mean, it's that simple. So I don't have 10,000 lawyers and 10,000 employees. I've got a small, tight company, and we just put it into the toy as much as possible, and the results show. So that's how. It's the only way I'm going to compete with giants. Right? And we've been doing it for 30 years.
To wrap up the unboxing here, I have had so many questions to ask to you, but the one that comes up the most is, are you going to expand any pre-existing DC Multiverse lines, such as Zack Snyder's Justice League, and add a Nightmare line or a Mira or anything like that?
The answer is maybe. And here's why I say that, because we come up with our extensive lineup, and then we have to sit in consultation with the Warner Brothers people and see what they've got coming up with their TV and shows and videos and animation and all those, and then just see what meshes, right? Because it's interesting that a lot of figures that sell really well here in North America don't necessarily translate overseas because, again, they're not nearly as fluent with comic books and with some of the media that we have here, right? So we have to be mindful of that. So we're always having those conversations. But everything that you just listed, are they on our wish list? Yep.
Awesome. Well, Todd, thank you so much for bringing these toys for us to unbox too. These are, this looks just like The Rock. It's like holding a mini rock.
No, and I've seen some of the clips of the movie, and it looks terrific. So, awesome. I hope this thing blows up huge. So.
Well, thank you, Todd, for joining us.
All right.
I'm Megan with CBR. Make sure to check out CBR for more content surrounding New York City Comic Con.
Okay.